Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video on the channel. And in today's video I wanted to quickly talk about the new Superman movie that came out recently. I've actually, as I am recording this, I just saw the movie a couple of hours ago actually, and I decided to record my thoughts, my opinions. This is gonna be a spoiler review, so I'm going to be talking about things that happen in the movie. So if you have not seen the movie, if you've not seen Superman, I would leave now because I will be talking about spoilers and things that happen in this movie. So just jumping right off the bat, my opinions and thoughts on the new Superman movie. I enjoyed this movie. I didn't love it, but I also didn't think it was like the worst thing ever. It was kind of like, I thought it was a solid, good movie. I really enjoyed my time with it. There are maybe like a couple of things that I didn't necessarily love about the movie, but a lot of it I feel like are kind of just nitpicks. I feel like I enjoyed this movie. I freaking enjoyed David Cornsweet as Superman. In terms of like interpretations of like Superman, this is probably just off this one movie, it's probably one of my favorite interpretations of Superman in this movie. I feel like David Cornsweet, he does a good job as, you know, Clark Kent slash Superman. He's a very likable Superman. He's a very charming Superman. He's a very also kind of dorky at times, and I think he just nails the character performance wise, and I think he does a good job of portraying the human side of Superman very well, in terms of, you know, some of the emotional scenes, some of the scenes that he has with other characters, you know, particularly the scene with Lois and Clark when they're having like their interview and they're talking about, you know, Superman invading or stopping another country from invading another country. All that I thought was really good, and just like the back and forth between Lois and Clark, I thought it was good. I thought their chemistry was really good and everything. But yeah, man, in terms of like Superman himself, I love the fact that he's actually, you know, saving people in this movie. I love the fact that he's saving people I love the fact, and there's a part in the movie where, you know, there's this giant kaiju, and, you know, Superman is trying to, you know, save people, or make sure that the kaiju doesn't, like, you know, kill anyone or anything like that. Superman is so, you know, keen on like not only like people not like getting hurt or anything like that, but he's like, even like when it comes to like the littlest things, as like, you know, a dog, or like even like just a tiny squirrel.
Get out of here!
Like, he is literally going out of his way just to save a tiny squirrel. I thought that scene of him saving the squirrel, I really liked that. Like, in that moment, I was like, wow, this is really showing that, like, even the smallest creature, even this most like, you know, insignificant thing, I guess, like, to Superman, it's the most important thing. And I thought that they really portrayed that super well in this movie. The freaking Lex Luthor as, or I guess Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, I thought he did a pretty good job as Lex Luthor. The way that he portrays Lex in this movie is really fun to watch. The freaking Lex Luthor throughout this whole movie is just hating on Superman, and you love to see it. He is just absolutely just like freaking always 2 steps or like 5 steps ahead of Superman. Freaking dude's just got like like so much hatred for Superman, obviously because, you know, he's jealous of Superman. He sees him as like a threat, you know, he feels insignificant because of Superman, and obviously that's why, you know, he hates him so much. And so I thought they did a good job of, you know, portraying that. I think Nicholas Hoult did you know, a good performance as Lex Luthor. You know, talking about just like the flying scenes, or just like the action scenes, or the flying scenes in particular. I thought the you know, the scenes of him, you know, flying, I thought were really shot well and shot, you know, uniquely. You know, some of the shots being the camera being placed in front of Superman and him flying, and some of the shots of him fighting the kaiju and, you know, him, you know, saving people, I thought were, you know, shot well, with, you know, the flying scenes with like the kaiju firing like fire at Superman, and the way that he like dodges the freaking flames, and the way that the camera moves with Superman and everything like that, I thought were pretty cool. In terms of like the action scenes, I thought the action scenes were super fun to watch. You know, the action scenes with you know, with Superman fighting Ultraman, I thought were cool. The scenes with, you know, Superman, you know, taking on freaking the engineer, I thought was cool. You know, the engineer, I thought all that was super cool and super fun to watch. In terms of like the side characters in this movie, obviously you get not only like, you know, the Daily Planet, you know, you get obviously the metahumans, or the some of the other superpowered individuals in this movie, like Guy Gardner, Mr. Terrific, and Hot Girl. And I thought just starting off with like Hot Girl, Mr. Terrific, and Guy Gardner, I thought their addition was cool. You know, obviously they're not like the main focus of this movie, but I think having those characters there to say that, like, yeah, this is, you know, the first DCU movie, but it is an already established DC universe filled with a ton of metahumans, a ton of superheroes already. Superman just so happens to be the newest one on the scene, and I think it's very apparent here, the fact that, you know, throughout the movie there will be moments where like well, they're called like the Justice Gang, or that's what Guy Gardner calls the Justice Gang, but it's still a working title, as they say in the movie. But you'll just get scenes of them just taking on like a giant monster in the city, and Superman will just be in the background talking to Lois about about his emotional problems and stuff like that, and they'll just be in the background just taking on a giant looking squid, extraterrestrial looking freaking monster in the background. And yeah, I just think this movie does a good job of like establishing like, yeah, there are heroes here, and they've been established, and yeah, it's not really a big thing, of course. Just talking about just the particular side characters, obviously you get Guy Gardner, you know, Nathan Fillion, I think he does a great job as Guy Gardner. You know, he's this, you know, kind of like a-holy, kind of lovable type character, kind of overconfident, you know, he's got the bowl cut and everything, which is hilarious. I think in terms of like the humor in this movie and like the jokes, he's definitely one of the characters that are in this movie for that.
How do you even know Superman anyway?
I just do.
So you know about the hypno glasses?
Now she does.
Well, I'm not saying who he is, just that he wears hypno glasses. They make his face terrific. How do they work? They make his face look different in your brain when he wears them, so that you know who he is.
Yes, I know this.
So you know he's Clark Kent.
Why does he trust everyone?
And obviously, you know, he's a Green Lantern, and so, you know, you get the cool constructs of him like creating things with his ring and stuff like that, which I thought were also cool too. And then you get Hawk Girl, which is I think she's played by Isabella Merced, which I think she did a pretty good job, even though she didn't do a lot in this movie in terms of like story-wise or plot-wise, but you know, I thought her character was cool, you know, with her helping out and everything. And then you have Mr. Terrific, which is one of the side characters that is tied more heavily to the plot. And I thought Mr. Terrific was a pretty cool character. Obviously, he's like, I don't think he has any like superpowers or anything like that. I think he's just like a genius. And I don't know if this is true or not, but like I think in the comics, they talk about how like he has like 14 PhDs or something like that. And so he's a super genius, and he has like these spheres that he uses to like take out people. And there is a particular scene in this movie with him and Lois, of him just like, and it's a very like James Gunn type fight scene with like the music blaring in the background and him just taking out a bunch of guys with the camera moving around. And that scene I thought was really cool to watch. So Mr. Terrific I thought was a cool addition, or a cool side character in this movie that I thought was, really cool. So in terms of like the visuals of the movie, obviously the movie is very bright and vibrant, and I do like that about this movie. Obviously the last live action Superman that we got with Henry Cavill, with Man of Steel and everything like that, was more darker in tone, and just like everything just felt obviously darker in those movies. And so it is nice to see that in this movie it leans heavily into, bright tones and more of a comic booky looking movie. And I know some people are not gonna like that. Some people are gonna prefer Henry Cavill, or like the Zack Snyder's style of Superman, and that's totally fine. But for me, it definitely worked, and it definitely like in terms of just like comic book movies, like this one definitely leans more into like the comic booky feel of superhero movies. When it comes to the humor in this movie, there is a lot of humor. There is humor in this movie, and I know that was like one of the main concerns for like people in this movie, especially with like James Gunn directing this movie, and going back to like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and going back to like the Suicide Squad. Obviously those movies leaned heavily into humor and comedy, and this movie definitely does have a lot of humorous moments in it. For me personally, that didn't really bother me, I guess, per se, because it's James Gunn, and like that's kind of like his thing. And I mean, I guess there were some moments where like especially like maybe emotional moments where like it was kind of like undercutted by like a joke like here or there. But like for me personally, it didn't really like necessarily bother me. I mean, because I feel like there are still scenes in this movie, like I said, with the interview scene with Lois and Clark. There's another scene with Jonathan, or Pa Kent, and he's talking to Clark, and Clark is basically talking about like how he feels like he's kind of lost his purpose, because in the movie there is a segment with there's a message that and it plays at the beginning of the movie, where you have Superman's birth parents, and it's basically a message to like soothe and calm down like Clark whenever he's getting beamed with rays of like sun, so like he can regenerate and stuff like that. And this message plays in the background, and it's supposed to be a very uplifting and motivational speech about how like the parents are talking about how like you were sent there to help these people and be their savior and stuff like that. And throughout the movie we realize that we get the full message, and the full message is actually way darker than expected. It's actually talking about, the message actually talks about how like he's been sent there to like rule over these people and conquer them, and like and stuff like that. So when we get to this scene with Pa Kent and Clark, and they're talking on the farm, obviously Clark is talking about how like he doesn't know now, he doesn't feel confident in himself that he knows what he's doing and why he's actually there to protect these people. And so basically Pa Kent in that moment basically talks to him and guides him and says, hey, your actions, what you do is basically, you know, the thing that makes you who you are. And I really didn't like that scene in the movie. I also like the scene with the people in the I forget the name of the country, but like it's supposed to be like the country that's getting invaded by Moravia in the movie. And there's a scene with like the kid, or there's like, you know, people, and like the military is coming in to invade these people, and like there's this kid who like puts up a Superman flag, and the people are like chanting Superman's name to like help them in that moment. And I don't know, there's just that scene of, you know, the kid holding the Superman flag and everything like that, I just thought was really touching and really cool to see. And so stuff like that I thought was good in terms of like emotional scenes and stuff like that. Obviously we get another scene with Superman in like this prison. Like it's like this pocket dimension that Lex created or something like that. And in the movie, Superman basically gets captured by Lex Luthor and gets sent to this pocket dimension, and that's where he meets Metamorpho. Metamorpho can turn into any substance or any I guess like any material, and so he uses his power to basically hold Superman by, you know, being able to create kryptonite. And so I thought that scene with him and Metamorpho was cool. I think the only thing I didn't like about that part of the movie is that like in that scene, I thought Metamorpho was going to be more of a different character than what we got in the movie. I feel like in terms of like the way that he's, you know, acts, I guess. I don't know how to describe it. Because I just remember watching the trailers and seeing Metamorpho and, you know, seeing Superman in this cage, and, you know, obviously he's got the kryptonite, you know, to hold Superman. And you know, I was thinking to myself, you know, how is Superman gonna get out of this situation? You know, my thought was that, like, you know, okay, so Superman is gonna like talk to Metamorpho, and he's gonna like try to like talk, you know, through Metamorpho, or try to get through Metamorpho so he can, you know, get out of prison and obviously save baby Joey too, I guess, is one of the, or I guess that's why Metamorpho is there, because, you know, Lex Luthor has his son, or baby Joey. I guess, I don't know, that part was weird, but, you know, I guess cool too. But I think what was like weird to me is that like the reason that he helped Superman in that moment is because I guess he was like afraid, or like he was like scared or like traumatized by the fact that like Lex Luthor was playing like Russian roulette with like some random dude that Superman had like saved, which I thought was a good scene. Like, don't get me wrong, I thought the part with like Lex Luthor playing like Russian roulette with this random dude that Superman saved really just kind of like hit home that like Lex Luthor is so petty that he would literally capture a dude that literally just went out of his way to help Superman. Like, Superman doesn't even know that person, doesn't even know who that person or who that guy is, but like Lex Luthor is so petty that he will go out of his way to torture that person or kill that person just because he helped Superman. And so yeah, but that happened, and then obviously Metamorpho starts like crying, and he starts like getting emotional, and then he decides to help Superman. And so like, I don't know, I just felt like that scene was kind of like rushed, I feel like, in terms of like Metamorpho's like decision to help out Superman in that moment. But, you know, that's just me. That's more of like a nitpick than anything, but, you know. Okay, so talking about the Daily Planet side characters, obviously we get the Daily Planet in this movie. We don't get a lot of Clark Kent in this movie, like, you know, Clark Kent, Daily Bugled Clark Kent. We don't I feel like we only get, and correct me if I'm wrong, I might be wrong, but I think we only get like one scene with Clark Kent in this movie of him at the Daily Planet, and with him, you know, talking to Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen.
22 people in the hospital, over 20 million in property damage. It does make you wonder.
Wonder what?
As great as he is, maybe Superman didn't completely think through the ramifications of the Bravia thing.
Well, if this guy is even from Bravia.
What do you mean? His name is the Hammer of Bravia.
Yeah, I doubt his parents named him that, Jimmy. We have no clue what his actual goal was here.
I think it's pretty obvious the goal was kicking Superman's ass.
He didn't completely kick Superman's ass.
And all the other side characters at the Daily Planet as Clark Kent. And I like those, and I like that scene with him at the Daily Planet and everything, but I feel like we only get like one scene with him in it. And obviously we get, you know, Clark when he's just not, you know, the freaking reporter with the glasses and everything. We just get regular Clark Kent because because, you know, Lois Lane at this point already knows that, you know, Clark is Superman, so he doesn't have to put on like a facade of him being an idiot, basically. And so, you know, I thought the scenes with, you know, Clark just being, you know, Clark, you know, I think this movie does do a good job of showing that, like, Clark is Superman, Superman is like Clark. They are one in the same person. They act the same, you know, when there is no secret disguise to be had, you know, Clark is just, you know, a good person. He's a very, like, a charismatic person, you know, he's kind of like dorky too, in a way. And so a lot of the scenes with him and Lois I thought were good. You know, the scenes with him and Ma and Pa Kent I thought were good too. And so yeah, so talking about the story in this movie, in terms of like the plot, what's interesting about this movie is that, like, it literally starts out by, you know, having like a title crawl at the beginning of the movie, basically laying out the history of the DCU and Superman. It basically, you know, goes into depth with like the years for, you know 300 years ago metahumans appeared in the world, and then it like slowly goes down the years by like saying that, you know, Superman appeared on Earth, you know, and then Superman, you know, revealed himself to the real world, and then it slowly goes down to like talking about how Superman lost his first fight ever, basically, against the Hammer of Bravia. And so it was definitely interesting to see them show or handle, you know, setting up the DCU in that way, and to say that, hey, metahumans have been around and everything like that, and this is, you know, Superman's origin just in this, you know, tiny quick title scroll, because, you know, everyone has already heard of Superman's origin story, and so, you know, it makes sense to like kind of like skim past it a little bit and just like, you know, say, here it is, you know what it is, okay, let's move on now. And so I thought that was like a smart way to do that. It was definitely interesting because, you know, in the title scroll they talk about how like this is the first fight that Superman has ever lost, and I kind of feel like they don't really talk about that much, and I don't know, it's not really necessarily a big deal to me, but I do feel like there was no necessarily reaction from that, or there was no like especially from Superman, like you know, this is the first fight that he's ever lost, and I feel like there's no like, wow, I feel like that's, you know, crazy or like anything like that. And so I guess that was like one thing like I, you know, didn't necessarily like, but I mean, I feel like it's more of a nitpick than anything. I do have a lot of nitpicks, like I said, I do really enjoy this movie. I guess, I don't know, talking about the things I don't know, didn't like in this movie, I can't really name like a lot. Obviously the third act is a very like superhero like third act, with like the city getting like split in half, and, you know, the freaking metropolis is, you know, in danger and stuff like that. And I mean, it doesn't necessarily bother me that much, but like I do feel like it is a very third act kind of battle, I guess, or third act kind of like superhero thing that they do at the end. And also you have, you know, Baravia, you know, invading the other country, and then the freaking what they called like the Justice Gang, they show up and help the people there fight against, you know, Baravia. And so I thought that scene was cool too, with, you know, Guy Gardner showing up and freaking Metamorpho joining the team with Hawk Girl and stuff like that. And so I thought that scene was, you know, pretty cool. Talking about another side character in this movie, Crypto the dog, dude. You know, what's funny, or I guess what's interesting, is that like when Crypto the dog was like announced for this movie, like people were like wondering like how a dog with like superpowers was gonna work in this movie. Was it gonna be like too goofy and too silly? And I can say, me personally, now watching the, you know, movie, I gotta say, Crypto works in this movie. He's definitely a cool and fun addition to this movie, just in the fact that he causes so much trouble for Superman in this movie. Like, honestly, he's more of a nuisance than like anything for Superman in this movie. You'll literally get scenes of him in the Fortress of Solitude where like Superman will like come home and like he'll realize that like there'll be like so much stuff like torn up in like the Fortress of Solitude, and then like you just realize that it was Crypto that did it.
Sir?
What is this? Crypto!
What the hey, dude? I thought you destroyed the whole Superman robots. I thought I told you to keep an eye on him.
We feed the canine, but he is unruly. And he realizes we are not flesh and blood and couldn't, in our heart of hearts, care less whether he lives or dies.
And there'll be moments where like he'll tell Crypto to like do something, and like Crypto just won't listen at all. And so it's definitely fun to like see Crypto in this movie, just being like a nuisance for Superman, and Superman just like you know, loving Crypto anyway, even though he is a nuisance for Superman. Like, you know, for example, there's a scene in this movie where like Lex Luthor goes to like infiltrate the Fortress of Solitude, and Crypto is obviously there to protect the Fortress of Solitude, but by doing that, you know, he gets captured by Lex Luthor, and obviously Superman realizes what happens and realizes that Crypto is captured, and there's a scene with basically Superman busting through Lex's like office door and like demanding to know where like Crypto is. And in that moment, I feel like it just really goes to show that even though this dog is a nuisance for Superman, and is like kind of like because he kind of describes it himself like yeah, I don't really like this dog, and yeah, he's more trouble than like good, but you know, at the end of the day, he's probably there's like a line where he says he's alone and he's scared and someone has to help him. And in that moment I was like, yeah man, that is a very Superman thing to do. Even though like he doesn't like this dog, he's literally going out of his way to save him anyway. And I thought that was a really cool, I guess, thing in this movie or moment. And so yeah. But talking about the plot more, I thought the story was pretty good. I thought the stuff with like Superman struggling with, you know, trying to do good and be a good person, or I guess like, because you know, Superman struggles like a lot in this movie, and not even just like, you know, politically and mentally through like, you know, things with like people, or you know, with Lois challenging like his, you know, thought process of him invading Bravia and stuff like that, but just like, or invading another country, but like just like physically, like Superman gets like beat a lot in this movie, and I feel like it just kind of just hammer homes the idea that like, yes, you know, Superman is a very powerful being, but he is still a, you know, or he can still be beat, you know, he can still be hurt, and he can still be, you know, taken down. And I think it was a good way to show that, like, you know, yes, he is a very powerful being, he's basically a god, but, like, you know, he has problems and he has issues that he has to work through, just like you know, everyone else, and you know he perseveres through those issues, and you know, everything. And obviously there's a scene at towards the end of the movie where, you know, Lex Luthor's plans, you know, don't work, and freaking Superman basically stops Lex Luthor's plans. And there's a scene with, you know, Superman talking to Lex and explaining, you know, like, hey, I'm a human just like the rest of, you know, everyone else. I'm emotional, I get angry, I mess up sometimes, and sometimes I don't get it right, you know, all the time, but, you know, I still try to do the right thing at the end of the day. And I thought that, you know, was a really good scene. And so, yeah, man, just overall, I really enjoyed this movie. Is it like a masterpiece or anything like that? No. But I still enjoyed my time with this movie, and yeah, man. If I was to give it a score, I would probably give it like a solid 8 out of 10. Yeah, I would probably give it like a 8 out of 10. It was a really good film, and I do want to obviously see it again. Probably not in theaters. I'm probably gonna wait until it comes out on streaming services to watch it again. But yeah, I would definitely suggest you guys go watch Superman in theaters. It's definitely a very enjoyable time. And yeah, man, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. So yeah, bye.